Well, well, well. What do you know? Your king was correct. Because the fact of the matter is, like I said, we are not going to have people along for the ride because there is no ride. Like I said, this is a straight shot to Money in the Bank, and clearly after beating Alejandro, who, by the way, was not disqualified from the match after biting me. Yeah, he bit my hand, and yet was not disqualified. Nothing ever came of it. And so, your boy had to put him in his place as a junior because he is not on my level, let alone being on the level of anybody who has ever held the title of being the best wrestler in BRW, and clearly that is something Alejandro will never have. Now, of course, if we're just to talk about my victory over Alejandro, this video would frankly be pretty boring because there is really nothing to talk about, as Alejandro isn't anything big. So not only today are we going to talk about Alejandro, we are going to go into a somewhat deep dive of the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. You see, in that pay-per-view, it clearly started off with, what was his name, Harlan O'Ryan versus Bizod. I mean, come on. The commissioner has got to just be bringing trash men off the side of the road who clearly have no clue what they're doing, because that match was absolutely abysmal. And if any of you seriously took a look at it and said that this is good wrestling and this is what you wanted to see when you signed up to subscribe to the Bizzaroni YouTube channel, you clearly are a bigot and a fool and should not even be able to use the internet. That's all that I have to say about that. The second match is Maximize versus Alejandro for the BRW Cruiserweight Championship. And I was a little surprised. You know, Alejandro came out there and looking wild. And I don't know, what his deal is. Every time he comes out in a different mask. And Maximize clearly was the favorite to win the match. I mean, if you couldn't hear the crowd reaction. Max came out to a cheering fit for a king. Anyway, and Alejandro came out to a roaring of boos and you sucks and you're a weirdo and all the other things under the sun, which, to be honest, I do not disagree with. Alejandro is very much weird, especially after the match I had with him. There is absolutely nothing normal about Alejandro. But that's a different problem for a different day. The problem I really have is that the fact that he walked out there with the BRW Cruiserweight Championship of the world. and he just chucked it on the ground like it was nothing. Now, sure, you can say whatever you want to about your king, but the fact of the matter is that Elijah King has always dearly loved my championship, my Money in the Bank briefcase. I don't take these things for granted, such as some other people, such as Alejandro, who clearly maybe had a little too much, pulled his big boy panties a little too tight that day, and decided to throw the Cruiserweight title on the ground like it meant nothing. And the fact of the matter is that does not sit well with your king. And good on Maximize for kicking his ass right back to Mexico or wherever he's coming from. Because I'm going to be honest with you, he doesn't look Mexican, and he's definitely not a luchador. That guy sucks. Anyway, I clearly was not 100% for the Royal Rumble match. This is what we're going to talk about next. So I want to set this up for you. First of all, I survived a car crash. I believe it was 3 days prior to the Revolution Rumble being filmed. 3 days prior, I was in a car accident. And let alone, your boy had a cold. So clearly coming into the Revolution Rumble, not 100%. But the fact of the matter is on top of that, I came in at number 2, and if you're a little too dumb to understand, number 2 is basically number 1. It doesn't mean any different that I came out from number 1 or from number 2, because I started in the ring, and that's all that matters, is that I started in the ring, and I nearly ended in the ring, amassing myself 2 eliminations on top of that, as I eliminated 2 returnees to the company. We said hi to the Bulldozer, and guess what? His ass was gone. And then AK comes back. We say hi to AK, and guess what? His ass went out of the ring too. And to be honest, what we really have to talk about as far as the Revolution Rumble is that, are we really going to give the win to Ezra Newman? Because if I'm remembering correctly, he was one of the last people to enter the match, just the same as Bischoff. The last 2 people were the last 2 people left in the match, and they were the latest, other than people like the Rizzler and AK, who clearly are not competition. Clearly, if you didn't watch the Rumble match. So other than those 2, you're probably guessing who were the final 5. Of course, it was Ezra Newman. Of course, it was Bischoff. But it was your boy, Elijah King. It was Maximize, number 1 and number 2, might I add, and AK. AK comes in there and eliminates Maximize. Ooh, he's down. And then the King eliminates AK because I am that good. But when we get down to the final 3, what is it? Let's think about this real questionably. And look, we have 2 people that are fairly healthy in this match. They have been here for not that long. And then you have one guy who has been in here since the beginning of the match, who also was in a car accident and has had a cold. And who instead of thinking smartly and being like, hey, you know what? This guy might have come out at number 1, but you know what we should do? We should work with him because he can help hurt the other one. What do? No, we chuck him out. And not only was I not chucked out of the match. Let's rewind a little bit. I was chucked out of the match. I was cheated out of the BRW Revolution Rumble match. And you want to know why that is? It's because Bizob isn't smart enough. He didn't get the clue that you're not supposed to throw out the man who's already hurt. No, instead you're supposed to go after the person who poses the most threat. But you know what that tells me? You know what that tells me inside? That tells me that to Bizob, in his mind, deep down, he knew that even after a cold, even after a car crash 3 days prior, and coming in from the beginning of the match at number 2, that Elijah King was still more of a threat to him than Ezra Newman. And what did that do, Bizob? That cost you the Royal Rumble match. It cost you the match. Because you have never been the sharpest tool in the shed. But the fact of the matter is, I cannot seem to wrap my head around how you decided that the guy who is about to team up with you to help beat down the competitor who will then eventually eliminate you, you throw the guy who's trying to help you out. No, you don't throw him out. You push him off the top of the cage. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And you know, when I was down there and I got up and all of you cheered for me, that was nice. Great job. But the fact of the matter is that there are very, very, very few people who actually have looked and said Elijah King is someone I like. Everybody else just wanted for the championship. And you know what? All of you are traitors. And who is the first to die in a war, in a scrutiny, when the pirates are watching? Who are the first men to be thrown over the board? Who's the first men to die? It is the traitors. It is the people that hop ship and cannot stick with the one thing. And you know what? Bizob, that is what you are, and that is what all of those fans are. You all are traitors to your king, and I will lay you down, set up the guillotine, and watch it drop and cut all of your heads off one by one, starting with your biggest supporter, Bizob. I'm going to start with Marcus, because you know what? Somebody got a little too big for their panties as well on the other side of the keyboard, because they have never been good enough to do what I do in the ring, because they are not cut from the same cloth. They are not built different like Elijah King is. And the fact of the matter is that I am going to watch that head get chopped off, because at History in the Making, Night 1, Elijah King is going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match and raise his head high, and also the arm holding the Money in the Bank right over all of the haters. And then, you know what I'm going to do after that? I'm going to think about it. I'm going to pick the best opportunity for me, and I'm going to cash it in. And whether it's Ajax, or whether it's now Ezra Newman, whoever has got that title on their shoulder when I cash in, you better be very clearly ready, because I've done this before. I am 1 for 1 with Money in the Bank cash-ins. And we're about to see how good you like the 100% chance that I'm going to take your title. And I'm going to walk away, whatever whatever arena it is, whether it be a normal match, whether it be in a pay-per-view, whether it be at your grandmother's nursing home. It doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is I'm going to cash in on you, and I'm going to raise the Money in the Bank high above my head while I pick up your BRW World Heavyweight Championship of the world and throw it across my shoulder, because that is where it is going to be staying. Might as well even get it tattooed onto me, because that is where the BRW World Heavyweight Championship of the world is going to be staying for a very long time. Right here. And it's not going to move. It's going to be right there on my shoulder every single time that I come out to that ring. And I cannot wait to see all of your faces and watch all of your smiling, happy faces as you see your guy climbing up the ladder. He's reaching. But wait. And there I am, turning the ladder over, knocking his ass to the ground, and then resetting up the ladder and repeating history and winning the Money in the Bank briefcase for the second time in a row. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to cash in for the second time in a row. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to win the BRW World Heavyweight Championship of the world for the second time in a row. And you know what else? I entered the Rumble at number 2. So this is just seeming like this is the day of number 2. But the one thing that I am not number 2 in it really should be your BRW power rankings. Because the fact of the matter is that Elijah King has always been number 1. I'll have fun seeing all of your faces be wiped clean and turned into frowns when I win the Money in the Bank briefcase, because now I have qualified. It is only a matter of time. So get your tissues ready and get your popcorn if you love me, because I'm about to take you on the Elijah King experience. Because if you missed it the first time, if you weren't subscribed, you're about to see it again, and this time you're going to see it in 4K. Because I am Elijah King. I am your king. Always have been, always will be. And I am out. Peace.